Manushya Rupena, they say no, now it is all Dr. Rupena.
Yeah.
This is like going to war. Soldiers, how they go to war, they cannot guarantee themselves, right? It's a very
Right.
similar feeling. Like.
And protecting the humanity. Hello, Deva. Hello.
So what's the new year, Rajesh?
Oh, sorry, Rohit.
Tamil New Year, Rohit ji.
Tamil and Malayalam.
Tamil and Malayalam New Year.
And for Bengali also, I think, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Happy New Year.
One more minute.
Yeah. Oh, I had a question before you start.
Yep.
In this, it is more focused on because Krishna himself is telling everything to Arjuna, right? So he's telling Parameshwara. Okay, that's fine. But in Vedanta class, he's specifically saying Mahavishnu.
Which Vedanta class?
The Thursday you had the last class, right? In that you were mentioning.
No, I think I used the term Vishnu because the word Vishnu, even though in a general sense we use it for deity Vishnu, it has a larger implication. Vishnu means that which pervades everywhere. So Vishnu is Parameshwara. So what these Puranas were doing was they were giving a name to these abstract Brahman, because it's very difficult for anybody to conceive. So let me just take a pause and give you the, since you asked that question, I gave you the scriptural validation for that. So I was reading and studying Valmiki Ramayana, and as part of that study, I came through a verse in Mahabharata. So this is from Mahabharata.
Rajesh ji, your audio is a little bit disturbed.
Is it? Is it for everybody? How is it for others? Like Rajesh, Rohit ji, everybody?
It was cracking a little bit. I think now it's better.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So the bandwidth sometimes it is created some issues. So actually means Poonaji asked the question, why we were referring Vishnu and Parameshwara, etc. So two words answer, I mean 2-sentence quick answer. The answer is the Vedanta or the Gita, when it talks about the absolute, the higher nature of the God, it doesn't have a name, it doesn't have a form, it is attributeless. So that is the higher nature of Ishvara, which we saw earlier. But when it comes to the Puranic literature, like if you go and take a Bhagavatam or a Ramayana, you see God is represented in different forms. Like if you go to Vishnu Purana, it is Vishnu with a forehand and a representation is there. So is Shiva, so is Devi, so is Skanda. Every Purana represents God in different form. So the natural question is, why do we need such Puranas? So the problem is, the Vedas, it is not easy to understand Vedanta or interpret Vedanta properly. So in Mahabharata, Vyasa tells, I compile the Vedas. I compose the Bhagavad Gita. But why did I compose Itihasas and Puranas on top of these Vedantic book? Because the one who composed the Brahma Sutra, the one who compiled the Upanishads, why do we need a separate Itihasas and Purana? So there is a verse in Mahabharata which tells, Itihasa Purana Phyam Vedam Samupabramiyate Viphetya Alprashrutonyatu Aham Mam Praharishyati. This is what it says. So it is said, Veda is saying to human being, Veda has to be interpreted using Itihasas and Puranas because stories needs hands and legs. Why Itihasas and Puranas required? The answer is Viphetya Alpashrutenyatu. Alpashruta, because either you have to be a Shushruta or you have to be a Vishruta. Shushruta means the one who understand the Vedas properly. The other one means the one who do not understand the Veda properly. Problem is Alpashruta means the one with not fully exposed to this traditional teaching. When such people interpret Upanishad, Veda tells, Aham mam praharishyati. They are beating me to death. So the biggest problem is the misinterpretation. So to avoid that misinterpretation, this and also to conceive it easily, the Puranas are created. So to quickly answer, Vishnu is same as that of Shiva, is same as that of Brahma. So that every god is a symbolic representation of that higher nature we have seen in these verses.
So this applies to all the Upanishads too, right? Because no.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Because in
Anywhere,
Upanishads, actually, there is no form given. It's only.
absolutely, there is no forms given because um, there is no forms given. There is nothing. It is formless, nameless. It is absolute reality. So when it comes to Purana, a name and form is given. But you could see even in Purana, there are stories indicating this absolute nature. Because without Purana, it was difficult to communicate this to ordinary people. That's why I just quoted that Mahabharata verse. So where it tells like these guys will misinterpret and kill me.
So Veda is crying.
Veda is crying. And also there is a verse given. Veda tells Vedas are created for removing fear from everybody. But Veda is afraid of only one thing, that is misinterpretation. Even Bhagavad Gita, you could see like people will find meaning even Krishna would not have been thinking of. So some of these commentaries, if you really read, you will be wondering, like even Krishna get confused. That's what. So that's why the traditional base is very important, like Shankara's commentary. So in our literature, like Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads or Brahma Sutra or Yoga Sutra, it has to be interpreted with the help of a Bhashya. So this is the Bhashya. So I have this Shankaracharya's Bhashya. So every line we need to interpret through the help of a master. So Bhashya is a literature which interprets these Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. And then there are two other literature. One is called Tika, the other one is called Vartika. Tika means this commentary itself is difficult to digest sometimes. So Shankaracharya's commentary on Gita, it's not easy to understand. So another masters, what they do is they will make it clear what exactly Shankara meant. For example, Anandagiri, he wrote a Tika on Shankara's commentary. So the scope of his Tika is only limited to the commentary. Every sentence in the commentary will be taken and it is interpreted. And there is another literature called Vartika. What they do is they take the commentary, but they go beyond the commentary. So these are three different literature we can use in the study of a traditional study of scripture. So Anandagiri's work is a Tika, whereas Sureshwaracharya's work is a Vartika. So
what about Shankara's?
Shankara is Bhashya.
Bhashya.
That's why Shankaracharya is known as Bhashyakara.
So the Tika is, what is the spelling of Tika?
TH means English, TH RKA. Tika, THIKA. I have to check and tell you.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so this is what our means. Sometimes it is so complicated because sometimes too many choices creates problem, and that is happening here. Okay, so let's get started. So we will listen to the prayer.
Sahana vavatu sahano bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Okay, welcome back. Again, before we start, let's pray for all the quick recovery of all the infected people, and let's pray for the health of all the healthcare people and other supporting people who are helping us to get out of this pandemic situation. So with that, we'll go to this wonderful chapter of chapter 7. 5 minutes introduction, and means at the end we can reserve some 10 minutes for any questions. So this chapter is the first of the second section of the Gita. The second section of the Gita, the predominant focus is the nature of Ishvara, or the higher reality. Whereas the first section was predominantly focusing on the individual, the second section focuses on God, or the higher reality. So God defined, that is the topic. So Krishna introduces this topic very well by giving a quick introduction, because he said, I'm going to introduce myself. Both theory and an experiential knowledge you will gain once you listen to me. And I'm going to give you everything, not just a bit and portion. I'm going to expose the God to you so that you won't miss the God. So that is the promise given in the beginning. And then he said, like, please know that this is not an ordinary knowledge. A lot of people struggle to get this knowledge, but I'm going to give that ready-made to you. So with this introduction, he started introducing two natures of Ishvara. I think last week we spent a lot of time explaining these two aspects. One is the higher nature, and the second one is the lower nature of Ishvara. The higher nature of the Ishvara, we call it as Paraprakriti. Paraprakriti is the absolute reality. And we talked about little bit about the Srishti Prakriya of Ishvara, meaning of the universe. If you consider time as if you consider time series, right? This universe will manifest and unmanifest again and again and again. How many times? We have no idea. So when the universe is not manifested, it is called undifferentiated universe, avyakta. And when the universe gets manifested in between, it is known as vyakta. But beyond vyakta and avyakta, there is an absolute reality which supports the entire universe. And we call that as Satvastu, we call that as Brahman, and we call that as absolute reality. And that is the higher nature of God, which we call it as Paraprakriti. And this Paraprakriti, we call that as the Nimitta Upadana Karana of the universe, the material and intelligent cause of the universe. And last week I borrowed a couple of terms from the modern philosophy and metaphysics. Those two terms were transcendent and immanent, if you remember that. So there are two aspects of God. One aspect is called transcendent, which is not directly experienced by my sense organs. I need to go out of my current realm of knowledge to experience that. And that is what is transcendent. And immanent nature of the God is something I can experience with my current capacity. So these two we explained, and I used the drishtanta or example of a dream. And again, I underlined every example, every metaphor has its limitation, and that's why it is a metaphor. Otherwise, it would have been the reality. So this dream metaphor, don't think that world is Ishvara's dream. So in that dream example, I said, suppose somebody is, I was using Gina as the example. So if Gina is dreaming that she's doing a yoga class, in her dream, Gina is also a character. Other people are there. Yoga mats is there. The building is there. The music is there. All that was created using her mind stuff. So I was just trying to explain who is the material cause of that dream universe. I can say that that dream universe was created by Gina. And within dream, Gina is also a character. And whatever she experienced in that dream is an imminent experience. So the material cause is myself. The intelligent cause is myself. And everything is sustained in me. And everything merges back to me. And everything was created to me. So for that dream world, Gina was the God, Ishvara. And within dream world, let us say that she is explaining about Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita. Let's say that she's doing a Bhagavad Gita class. So suppose one person say that, who is that God? The real person who created that universe is lying down in a bed. That real person is outside of his experience. And for that person, for that dream person, the person sitting on the, lying down on the bed is a transcendent experience. So that example is a very powerful example that shows this immanent and transcendent nature of God. So we talked about that para-prakriti, and we said from this para-prakriti, this apara-prakriti evolves. At the beginning of every cycle, what is going to happen? This apara-prakriti get evolved. And apara-prakriti is nothing but it is the material fabric of the entire universe. When we say material fabric, it is represented by 5 basic elements. And I said that this 5 basic element comes from the Panchabhuta model. And this Panchabhuta model is from an ancient worldview, a pre-scientific worldview, where the entire world they assumed or they modeled using these 5 elements. And these 5 elements represents the 5 states of matter. In fact, 4 states of matter plus the absence of any other state. So solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and space. The combination of these 5 states of matter is the entire physical universe. But along with the physical universe, we said there is a subtle universe. And that subtle universe is nothing but the mind, intellect, and the ahankara. So that forms with that subtle matter. So the physical, the subtle world as well as the physical world is created by these 5 elements, 5 plus 3 elements. And these apara prakriti constitutes the entire material world. So from para prakriti, the apara prakriti came in, and from apara prakriti, what happened? The entire universe of all the names and forms, including the subtle universe, got created. So that is what we said. And then what happened? In the universe, along with the material objects, there are living beings. So the living being constitute matter plus consciousness. The consciousness of a living being is provided by para-prakriti, because the surupa or the real nature of the para-prakriti is consciousness. So the consciousness is given to a living being by the para-prakriti, and the matter or the body is given again by the para-prakriti, but indirectly. From para-prakriti, the apara-prakriti came up. From the apara-prakriti, all the matters formed. And if you remember, we talked about the bucket, water, and the sun example. The sun can be considered as para-prakriti, and the buckets and the water, the combination can be considered as apara-prakriti. And when there is a bucket and water combination, what happens? The reflection of the sun will happen. And when the reflection is happening, you can see a consciousness there. And I said, right, when you move that water from one bucket to the other, it appears a new sun is born in that new bucket. But the sun was never born. The sun was always there, but the material became capable of reflecting that sun. So then, having explained this, Krishna said, the transcendent nature of Ishvara or the God or the absolute reality, it is very difficult to conceive in our current state. So how do you recognize Ishvara? How do you understand Ishvara? How do you connect with that God? It's easy because the immanent nature of God is always readily available for us to perceive. Krishna said, remember, even if the bucket is there, the water is there, the water has to be pure and it has to be stable for reflecting the sun properly. So he said, even though hundreds, everything in the universe is a manifestation of Ishvara, you might be able to see that glory of the Ishvara or the Vibhuti of Ishvara at certain places. So in from verse 8, he is trying to give a few examples. In fact, 8, 9, 10, 11, he gives 14 examples. 14 places you can find Ishvara, the God. You don't have to go to Vaikuntha or Kailasha to see God. Just open your eyes and see this glory and contemplate upon this. So we started explaining the other day, 8 and 9, we saw that 9 places you can find God in its immanent nature. So he said, I am the wetness and the taste of water, and the luminosity of the sun and the moon. Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo. I am the God. Wherever you see God in any scriptures. So make it, look at that. He making it very universal. Pranavas Sarvavedeshu. The God in every scripture. We can extend that even to the other scriptures. Like wherever God is mentioned, wherever the God is invoked, whether it is a church or a mosque or any places, wherever God is invoked, know that it is me. Pranavas Sarvavedeshu. And I am the sound you hear. So means one of the meditation I personally do is like when I walk in the nature. Means I like nature a lot. Like the sound of the nature. And you might be seeing me using a lot of natural sound in our meditation classes. It is a direct experience of God. When you see the waterfall, when you listen to the sound of rain, when you listen to the sound of cricket, everything you can see that glory of Ishvara. Just we need to have that ear. Then the manliness of man and the womanliness of women, that is also Ishvara. Like you get that which makes you who you are, the man or woman, that power is Ishvara's. And then sweet fragrance, whenever you smell something good, right? If something is bad, what happens? The reflection of that sun is not happening properly. But when you hear that, when you get that good smell, know that Ishvara. So the sense, the natural fragrance you enjoy, it is Ishvara. Then the heat and brilliance of the fire. Whenever you see fire, that is a very good source of meditation. And life in all living being. Without Ishvara, that life is not going to happen. The very fact that somebody is alive, you can see the presence of God there. And the power of austerity, the discipline somebody follows, and the power somebody gets because of the austerity. All that is me. Amazing. Like this is just taking the God from the adobe of heaven and bringing it to our day-to-day experience. That is what these verses do. If you contemplate upon these verses, it's amazing and you can experience that God. And I said, like, this is how Ramakrishna Paramahamsa told Narendra that I see God just like as I see you. And Krishna is just, Vivekananda explains this later. I understand that later point of time. This is what? Typically what we do, we keep the God completely away from us. So this is bringing God to our daily life. So let's continue. 2 more verses, he explains this. Continue to explain another 5 more examples. So we saw 9 and another 5 more is there. So let's listen to 10th verse. Do we have Anu in the call? Otherwise we'll play the recording.
No, I don't think she's there.
Okay, she's there on the Sunday class, right? Okay,
Yeah.
That's good. Let's listen. Krishna continuing his wonderful inspired mode of speech. Krishna himself was in a very inspired mode. He's giving that speech. I'm not joking, because you might be, there is another instance. After the Mahabharata war, Arjuna came and asked Krishna, can you repeat what you said at that point of time? He expressed his inability. I don't have that flow. Even though he gives some talk, it's nowhere near to this, because this comes from a very inspired mind. So let's see. So he tells Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam Vithi Partha Sanatanam Buddhir Buddhimatam Asmi Tejas Tejasvinamaham Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. I am the seed or the origin of all the being. Like, I'll explain this in the next slide. I am the seed for all the living beings. That is what he tells. I'm going to relate that a little bit more directly. Vithim Partha Sanatanam. Vithim means what? Know that the eternal me is the bijam or the seed for every being, every living being. Two more things he tells. Buddhir Buddhim Buddhimatam Asmin. The intelligence of the intellect is me. For an intelligent man, from where that intelligence comes from. All the intelligence in the world, any scientist or any poet or any artist, we know that a lot of people have intelligence. I am the intelligence of that intelligent person. Without me, that intelligence will come out. Then Tejas Tinamaham, the brilliance or the strength or the power that exhibits by the expression of health. I would say that Tejas and Ojas they call in Ayurveda, right? So the Tejas, the expression of health in every healthy person is me. So we will see that a little bit more detail. Seed of all beings. What is seed? It is the biological source of all living beings. Remember, earlier he said, I am the yoni, edat yonini bhudani, the womb. Earlier he said. Now he said, I am the seed. The definition of the seed is, it is the biological source of all the beings, whether it is plant, animal, or human. That seed, know that that biological source of all living being is me. So whenever you see a seed, because even the biggest banyan tree comes from a seed. Means it is easy to think about the trees, huge trees. A large mango tree come from a small seed. So that seed, the biological source of all the being is me. So understand that. So you can see, like, when you see a huge mango tree, like, you can see that the seed in that fruit is capable of bringing another mango tree. And it is able to bring that out because of that presence of Ishvara. The biological law that causes the sprouting of the seed is also me. In the commentary, Shankaracharya tells that it is not just the seed, it is the biological law that causes the sprout to bring out the tree. A mango tree is coming from a mango seed. So the seed is me, and the law that sprout the tree from that seed is also me. Amazing examples. And then he tells intelligence of the intelligent. So what is the intelligence? Biologically speaking, what is the intelligence? It is the complex neural circuits in your brain. You know that. And those who studying the artificial intelligence, they know how complicated is this neural network. So from the input we get, it gets transformed into multiple times through multiple combinations. So how this circuit is formed, that is going to determine the intelligence of the neural network. So you can see the intelligence of Einstein, an intelligence of Shankaracharya, an intelligence of like Schrodinger, an intelligence of Stephen Hawking. All these people have highly evolved neural networks. and that which creates this neural network. These networks are formed in our brain. How that is formed and how this complex intelligence is derived out of it, that is me. The second line is wrong. It is not brilliance of the sun. It is the intelligence of the intellect. That's it. So just ignore that. Then Tejas Sinamaham. I am the shine of health, the sign of health of a healthy person, or it is the brilliance of an individual. It is the Tejas, the glory. It is the expression of health is me. So when you see a healthy person, whenever you see that your healthy system, it is me. The law that governs your body. Oh my God, you should read how this human body works. Unbelievable. The level of intelligence, the level of complexity this body is designed. No human system can ever come closer to this. So this shine of health or this brilliance is me. So Tejas Sinamaham. So these are the few, another three example is given by Krishna. So one more time, he tells, Balam means Bijam Mam Sarvabhudanam Vithi Partha Sanatanam. The eternal me is the seed of all being. So please be careful when you use the Sandhi and the interpretation. Means some people say that Sanatanam seed, Bijam. The Sanatanam is a qualifier of me. I am Sanatana. The eternal me is the seed of all beings. And some people try to interpret it as universal seed, but that's not the way Shankaracharya interprets. Shankaracharya interprets the life, the biological source of all the beings. So that's, I feel that is the right interpretation. And then Buddhim Buddhimatam Asmi, the intelligence of the intelligent people is me. The shine of health, the tejas, the brilliance in every person is me. So let's continue. So we saw three more we saw. So now two more. 9 plus 3, 12, 14. Beautiful. So he tells, Balam Balavatam Chaham Kama Raga Vivarjitam Dharma Virutho Pudeshu Kamosmi Paradarshapha. Two more items, two more places we can see Ishvara. So he's giving the physical, his expression, he's giving some emotional expression, he's giving some intellectual expression, he's bringing that into the overall 360-degree experience. Everything is imminent, so you can experience it. So Balam Balavatam Chaham. So the strength of the strong. I am the strength in the strong. There are strong and powerful people in the universe. Who is really the strength of them? The strength you see the president of the country. The strength you see the prime minister of the country. The strength you see through the spiritual master. The strength, your own strength. Each one of us has some strength. Naturally, people can ask a question. So that means the Bin Laden was also strong. Mao was strong. Genghis Khan was very strong. So is that expression is also God? So that's why he put the next comment. When you see such expression, the negative expression, that means they are not reflecting Ishvara properly. So he tells, Balam Balavatam Chaham Kama Raga Vivarjitam. The expression of strength where there is not bound by selfish desires and passion. So now look at all these dictators, Kamsa or a Bin Laden. or all these people, all these dictators, what they do, Stalin or a Mao, all these people, what they do, when a small person rise against, they will kill them and eliminate them. Why? It is for their own desire and attachment to the power. So such power is not an expression of Ishvara. When you see the power coming out through a Buddha or a Vivekananda or a person leading a righteous war, such expression are Ishvara's expression. So Balam Balavadam Chaham Kama Raga Vivarjidam. That strength, expression of the strength, which is not a result of Kama and Raga. Kama means here binding desires, selfish desires. So the power and the strength you experience, right? The strength of Siddhartha, the strength of Maharana Pratap, the strength of so many people were there in the country, right? The Joan of Arc, all such people, that strength is Ishvara strength. Then the next thing is Dharma Viritho Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharadashrabha. So Bharata Rishabha. Bharata Rishabha means the bull or the prominent one among the Bharata clan, meaning Arjuna, or each one of us, because we all are descendant of Bharata. You know who is King Bharata, right? I already talked about that. Mahabharata, the famous king who ruled our country, who is the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. A king who is known for his wonderful change of policy in India, right? He's the famous one who decided that the eligibility to rule the country is not by birth, but by eligibility. So he found that none of his sons were not qualified to become king. So he adopted a person and made him the king. And thereafterwards, it was a rule. The king of Hastinapura had to be made based on eligibility. And this rule, when it got violated, the Mahabharata war was about to start. And do you know who violated this? This rule of
Bhishma.
Bhishma violated. So that was the starting of the Mahabharata war. So this is the background. So Kamosmi Bharatas. Kamosmi. Krishna said, I am the desire. And the desire in you. And the wish and desire in you is me. But he qualifies that. What? Dharma viruddho bhuteshu. Any desire that is not against dharma. A desire to study Bhagavad Gita. A desire to feed my family. A desire to get educated. So those non-binding desire which are not against dharma is me. So a couple of things. The strength of the strong, but the strength is always qualified as free from selfish desires and attachment. And then desires, but that desires aligned with the dharma, or the desires that is not against dharma is me. So we saw 14 examples. So today we saw 5 more. First one was Belam Bellavatam the strength of the strong. Sorry, before that, seed of all being, like the biological source of all being, the intelligence of the intellect, the tejas of an individual. And then we saw the strength of the strong and desires which are not against dharma. So these are the 14 places immediately you can experience Ishvara. So when you see, because we see all these 14 things, but we never see the Ishvara there. So now understand that I don't need to go to a temple or means, of course, you have to go to a temple. That is for a different discipline. But for seeing Ishvara, just open your eyes and see. And those who study Rudram, you know that, right? This is the chapters after chapters. He tells, I am the leaf, I am the river, right? Vrikshepyo, Harikeshepyo Namaha. Like you can see, all these chantings just shows this imminent aspect of Ishvara. Not at over. When it comes to chapter 10, which is the Vibhuti Yoga, Krishna is going to give a list of other things. Among mountains, I am the Himalaya. Among Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Wherever you see that glory, it is me. So hundreds of examples are given, but at least a trailer is given. So this is very powerful. This can be used in meditation, and this can be very powerful. So let's continue. One more verse, we'll continue. This is an interesting verse. He tells, Echa Echa Eva Swatika Bhava, the Swatik states. Rajasa Tamasaschaye, and Rajasic and Tamasic. So he tells all that is born out of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas is me. I'm going to explain this. Matta eveti tan vithi. Know that means they come from me alone. Anything born out of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, know that it is born out of me. But he makes a claim. Even though they are born out of me, Natvaham teshu me mai. I am not bound by them and they are not in me. So remember, Gita has some not tongue twisting, like some complicated verses. So the story is that the scriber of the Gita or the Mahabharata was Ganesha. Vyasa used to dictate these verses to Ganesha. So Ganesha put a condition saying that you have to give me continuously verses, otherwise I'll go away. Vyasa agreed, but Vyasa put a counter condition. What was that counter condition? You have to understand before you write.
Yeah.
So in between, what happens? If Vyasa want to take a little bit break, he gives a verse like this. So it will take few hours for Ganesha to understand. By that time, Vyasa will have the coffee or rest and come back. So this is one such verse. So let's try to understand this. It's very simple. So he tells, every being in the universe is born out of me. So we can see that in the universe, something is born as from the Sattva. Sattva means purity, means here. The Sattva Rajas Tamas is again a model used in the ancient world. You can see the Sattva Rajas Tamas in the Sankhya literature. That is where it started. And Bhagavad Gita uses that extremely. So we need to understand the meaning. Sattva means purity. Rajas means hyperactivity or agitation. And Tamas means it is the negativity or inertia. That is a simple way of representing it. We are going to see this in detail in 14th chapter. But for the time being, let's see that. Now the thing is, we can say that even in our mind, some thoughts are born out of Sattva. Some thoughts are born out of Rajas. Some thoughts are born out of Tamas. And some thoughts are born, means it's a mixture of all those three. So in our Puranic literature, symbolically they say that in the universe, all these exalted human beings or exalted beings like Devas, they born out of the Sattva guna. So all the Devas born out of the Sattva guna. Or we can say that all the phenomenal forces that helps human being. Devas are symbolic representation of the phenomenal forces. The sun, the wind, the air, right? The air, the sun, the air, the fire, all these forces which are absolutely must have for the existence of the human being. they are born from the Sattva Guna. That is what is symbolically it is said. So don't think that there is a Devendra, there is all these people wearing all these glittering clothes, like, and staying on the cloud. And whenever somebody like do a penance, Devendra gets all these type of stories. Please, 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 please don't do that. It can be very confusing. So understand Devas as the phenomenal forces that are absolute must have for the human existence. So that is the Devas. We say that they are born out of the Sattva Guna. And there are elements in the universe which are completely harmful for the human beings. Destructive forces. For example, coronavirus. These are destructive forces which can affect the human life in this world. And they are symbolically represented as Rakshasas, demonic forces. So don't think that there is another Rakshasa like what I shown in the picture. This is the symbolic representation. It means that there are negative forces in the universe which is born out of Rajas. They are destructive. And then there are forces which are tamasic, born out of the tamasic nature, who do not have any discrimination. They are just programmed. So it is said that animals are born out of this tamas. So here Krishna says that everything is from me, whether it is a tamasic being or rajasic being or a sattvic being, everything come out of me. How? So I will give you three examples. One example, simple example. So we have three buckets. One bucket, you have a pure water, calm water. The reflection of the sun born out of that bucket is pure. Now let's say that there is an agitated bucket. The bucket is, means the water is agitated. You will see a dancing sun. And the third bucket, it's a dirty water. So you see a dirty sun. So can I say that the dirty sun, the dancing sun, and the pure sun all came from where? Who gave existence to all these suns? The actual sun. Correct? So that is why Krishna said, whether it is Rajasic or Tamasic or Sattva, all these expressions came forth because of me. Because if I was not there, that dirty sun would not have been there. If I was not there, that dancing sun would not have been there. And if I was not there, that pure sun also would not have been there. So I am the cause. All these, whatever that comes out of the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, it is from me. And then he make a statement. They came from me, but I am not in them. So if that sun say, right, the dirty sun exists because of me, but is there any dirt in me? Absolutely not. The dancing sun exists because of me, but am I dancing? Absolutely not. So we need to understand that the expression of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas is from the matter. The combination of matter makes it Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. From a higher perspective, there is no Sattva, no Rajas, no Tamas. So that is what Krishna is expressing in this verse. So wherever there is a not so nice expression in the universe, understand that that also happens because of my presence, because otherwise it won't happen. But know that even though that exists because of me, I am not in them. So they are in me, I am not in them. I am completely separate, independent, all these things. But because of my presence, they get an existence. Another modern example. So you are projecting something, right? You're projecting something to the screen. You can project the story of Paramahamsa Yogananda, and you can project the most ugliest film in the world. whatever that comes in front of the light get projected to the screen. The light gives existence to that projection. Without the light, that projection will not happen. But is that light becomes saint when you project the story of Bhagavad Gita? And is that light becomes tainted when you project a dirty film? So the Swami Chinmayananda, who used to use powerful expression, he used to say that the sunlight is will not get holier when it shines on the top of the Bhagavad Gita. And the sunlight will not get tainted when it illuminate a dirty book or a gutter water. So this is a powerful expression. So Krishna is just giving that difference, just to understand that the para prakriti, it is not affected by anything that is happening in the universe. So within the nature, within the realm of time and space, within the realm of matter, there are certain rules that governs the universe, and with that rule, there can be sattva, rajas, and tamas. Means we have to understand the karma theory to understand all those details, but just understand that without the presence of absolute reality, there is no existence for anything, whether it is good or bad. And by the way, just an expression, this is what made Carl Jung, the disciple of Sigmund Freud, so much attracted to our scriptures. Because otherwise what happens? You have to imagine a negative force, and then there is a constant war between God and Satan, and in between Satan wins and take control of human being, etc. So that issue is not here. So this is very, very, very specific. And we're going to see this in the upcoming verses a little bit more detail. So the point is, the sattva, raja, anything that comes out of sattva, rajas and tamas, it is coming from me. Even though they come out of me, I am not in them. I just give existence to them, but I am not affected by them. They are in me, I am not in them. Because without me, they do not have any existence. But I am not conditioned by them. I am not affected by them at all. So think about that sun's example. The dancing sun has no relationship with the original sun. The dirty sun, of course, the dancing sun is dependent upon the original sun, but the original sun has no connection. It is completely independent. So they are in me, I am not in them. Swami Chinmayananda loved this verse. He used to elaborate this verse a lot with all these very powerful examples. Just wanted to remember, even though all the beings are born out of me, I am not in them. So light is not responsible what is being projected on the screen. Electricity is not responsible for what song you play in an audio system. It can be the best song, it can be the dirtiest song. So that's the idea. So we are continuing our discussion on the nature of Ishvara. So today we saw the imminent, certain things we can use to identify the imminent nature of Ishvara. We saw 14 examples. Today we saw 5 more, brilliantly painted. And then he said, finally he concluded that these 5 are where you can see my expression easily. But that doesn't mean that everything else comes from a different source. Absolutely not. Everything in the universe has existence on me, my apara prakriti. So even though they exist in me, I am not conditioned or tainted by them. That's where it says. And now we are going to see a little bit more interesting topics. You will see, I see like the Ishvara Kripa. How each people, right? What are all the different type of people who worship Ishvara? And what are all the different aspects of that worship? And all those interesting questions will be answered. So let's give 5 minutes for questions. Any questions?
So Rajaji, again, I'm sorry, I must be repeating God knows how many times the same question. but like going through these verses which you just read, specifically the ones where Ishvara says that Rajas, Tamas, Sattvic gunas are not him, but they are from him, right? And then when we compare that to ourselves, we being just a reflection of the consciousness, we cannot stake a claim, like we are affected by the three gunas at all times. But Ishvara is not. He is outside of the gunas.
Yes.
So then how does that make us the same as Ishvara?
So the second chapter, verse 38 gives the answer. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdanto Nitya Sattvasto Mriyoga Chema Atmavan. So second chapter, later we will get the answer. To fast forward, what we need is typical individual is always conditioned by these three gunas. But there is a means, there is a path prescribed in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Vedanta to go beyond these gunas. You can go beyond these gunas. Of course, you also can claim that these gunas are in me, but I am not in them. So there is a path prescribed. And that path it starts with Karma Yoga. So why I am conditioned means a few things needs to be answered. So right now, remember, we are in the second chapter, we are on verse 28. So when it goes to 38, this topic starts. To be specific, that is what the verse is. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Veda talks about these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. You go beyond all these three gunas. Nirdvanto Nitya Sattvastu Nriyoga Chema Atmavan. You have to go beyond this pair of opposite, and you have to get connected with the Sat. Sat means the absolute. We are talking about the Para Prakriti. So get connected with this Para Prakriti and establish this. And for that, he said, Esha te pihita sankhe buddhir yoge timam shruno. So far, what I have been explaining was the knowledge part. And now I'm going to explain the means to achieve it. And that means is known as yoga. So far, we haven't introduced the yoga topic at all. So means, of course, now we are in the 7th chapter, but in the 2nd chapter, later portion, this yoga will be introduced. And the entire 3rd chapter is going to give you a prescription how you can go beyond these three gunas. And also it gives an explanation why you are conditioned by these gunas. So just wait for a few more classes in the other work stream. you will hear those topics.
Great. And Rajaji, is that the fundamental goal of all human life?
Absolutely.
To go beyond the gunas?
Absolutely. You go beyond these gunas. The gunas will be in you, but you are not conditioned by the gunas.
And is that also our ultimate destination?
It is. See, the thing is, being a human or being a living being, it puts certain conditions on you. Like if you really look at the evolution, what is the difference between an animal and a human being? The animal do not have much choices, right? The choices an animal can make is very less. Even though some animal shows the beginning of some intelligence, but how much space it has, very limited. But when it comes to a human being, what happens?
Limitless choice.
Yeah. So how do we extend that space? How can we extend that space? So Gita call it as a second stage of evolution. So interestingly, there is a scientific paper also on this. So the scientific paper is, as you all know, Charles Darwin is the one who put forth this organic evolution or the biological evolution, right? So I think in 1583, no, 1953, 100 years after Darwin's paper, there was a scientific congress in Chicago. So in that paper, there is a famous neuroscientist. His name is Sir Julian Huxley. He presented a paper, and that paper was very much appreciated, and that paper was accepted. And he said the evolution is also in 2 stages. The first stage of evolution is called the organic evolution. So from a unicellular organism, like it get evolved to a human being. And his point is a human being do not need to have a wings because his intelligence is capable of creating a plane. So he said, once you reach the human being, the organic evolution is very minimal. The second stage of evolution is more predominantly is of the mind. How to gain that freedom. And he coined a term, it is known as psychosocial evolution. It is the evolution of your psyche. How do you gain freedom from this sensory pleasure? How do you gain freedom from the push and pull of the nature and think freely, act freely, and go freely? And when it translates to a mystical language, that's exactly what we are saying. Get out of this pull of sattva, rajas, and tamas and go beyond that. Google it. You will be finding that interesting. Google Sir Julian Huxley and psychosocial evolution. You will get it. There's a paper.
Julian Huxley. Okay.
Yeah, Sir Julian Huxley. It's a British scientist, biologist. Okay. Any other question?
Rajesh is Sanjay.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
So at the beginning, you were talking about Itihasa and Purana. So I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe Gita and Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana, are these two considered as Itihasa?
Not exactly. Bhagavad Gita is part of an Itihasa. So Itihasa means, Itiha means it happened. It was like that. Hasa means it happened. So thus it happened. So they take some historical event and add that with so many additional information. So there are two popular Itihasas in our country. One is called Ramayana. The other one is called Mahabharata. And this Bhagavad Gita is a portion of that largest Itihasa called Mahabharata. So 18 chapters, 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita is a part of that gigantic epic called Mahabharata, which has almost 100,000 verses.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So Ramayana is composed by sage Valmiki and Mahabharata is by Vyasa.
But Purana is like, these are just stories which are not authenticated, right? Or
right. So Puranas means it is mythologies or stories. Puranas are different from Itihasas. So Itihasa means it has some historic content. Whereas Purana means they are illustrations by sages, sage Vyasa, for explaining these ideas. So there are 18 Puranas and 18 Upapuranas. So out of the 18 Puranas and Upapuranas, the most popular Purana is the Bhagavata Purana.
Okay.
So just to give a very, very high level understanding of our scriptural literature, the authentic literature scripture is Vedas. Upanishad is part of the Vedas, as we explained. And the second tier of literature is Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And the third layer is this Puranas. There is almost 18 plus 18, 36 Puranas are there. And then we have this literature called Bhashyas, which we talked earlier. And then we have something called the Sutras. It's aphorisms. In a very cryptic way, they convey the idea. The three popular scriptures are, the Sutra literatures are Brahma Sutra of Vyasa, Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, and the Bhakti Sutra of Narada. And then the next tier is what you call as Prakarana Granthas, which are the introductory textbook, which explains the basic terminology of these other scriptures. So Vivek Chudamani, Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, all these are examples of Prakarana books. This is the vast scope of our scriptural literatures.
Rajesh, what is the Prasthana Traya?
Prasthana Traya is any teaching or any body of knowledge that explains the content of the Upanishad. So Upanishads plus certain body of knowledge that explains the content of the Upanishad. So three mainly. One is Upanishads, second one is Bhagavad Gita, and the third one is Brahma Sutra.
Mm-hmm. I think just for Sanjay ji's benefit, your first talk on Vedanta, I think you have spoken extensively on all these literatures.
Yep, I
The
did.
first Vedanta.
I'll probably check that YouTube link.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
But you
it's
can
the
ask
first.
any questions, okay? It doesn't matter
Sure.
whether I spoke
Sure.
about that or not. Any questions, please feel free to ask. If I know, I will answer. Otherwise, I will refer and answer. Any other comments
Sure.
or questions?
Rajesh, I have a question.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the 14 things where we should be seeing the glory of Ishvara. But for me, it's most like in the past that I could see negativity wherever, but now I'm able to see a bit more positivity in everything. Like, is it so? Shouldn't it be like we should, instead of saying that the God is not reflected in that particular thing, shouldn't we say that it's the way that you look?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the presence of God is not obvious otherwise. But when you have the eyes, you can see everywhere. So it requires an evolution in you. So you may have to have that eye to see that God. So this is what is symbolically represented as the Jnana Chakshus in the chapter 11, because Krishna said, I am everywhere, but you are not seeing me properly. For that, you need to have a special eye. So in serials and all, you'll see Krishna waving the hands and something comes to Arjuna's eyes, but essentially he's giving the knowledge and maturity. When you have that knowledge and maturity, you will see God everywhere. So absolutely, you're 100% right. So it is that when the reflection is not very clear, you may think that the sun is absent, or you may not see the sun there. So when you see that dancing sun, dirty sun, you may fail to see that sun if you are not matured. So you're absolutely right. So it is not that the sun is not there. Our evolution is very important to see God everywhere. So that is why we are limited to that 14 examples. But when it get to chapter 10 and 11, you will see that everything is God. That's the way he's going to explain. But right now it started.
Got it. Thank you.
I guess once
How
your
do we
perception
work?
changes, sorry, I guess
Sorry.
once your
Sorry,
perception
Raj.
changes, you see everything in a different way.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it is, right?
So
I
there
guess.
is a big shift, right? So all these people say that there is only one God. Absolutely correct. But we add one more. There is only God.
Sorry, Bhunaji, I cut you off. You
No,
please go
no,
ahead.
no problem. No, so what are the measures to work, or how to get that eye?
So it's the same thing because, for example, the first thing is you have to practice Karma Yoga, because when my mind is not pure, I don't see things properly. Imagine that you are putting a colored glass.
Correct.
So how to remove that color? It is through Karma Yoga. So practice Karma Yoga, not speak about Karma Yoga, but practice Karma Yoga. So proper work with proper attitude. So this Karma Yoga will flush out these negative impressions or the dirt from my mind, which is the Chitta Shuddhi.
So that's number one.
Number one. Number two is, imagine I specifically using 3 examples. The first example was the water was dirty.
Correct.
Second one was the water was dancing. So the mind has to be stable. Chitta Sthiti. So for that, Upasana Yoga, that was the theme of chapter 6. So chapter 6 we saw, we need to practice Upasana Yoga, a set of practice which brings the mind under my control.
Control.
So the meditation, prayer, puja, all these things are Upasana Yoga. So that is going to give me Chitta Sthiti. So when the Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Sthiti is achieved, you have that maturity. You have that eye to see what needs to be done. And this is what we call it as Adhikaratvam. So if anybody wants the details, there is a couple of videos we have in the introduction to Vedanta. We call the Adhikaratvam, the qualification, and how to gain these qualification. That is the title of the talk.
Intro to Vedanta, and then what?
Introduction to Vedanta, that lecture series, there is a topic called Adhikaratvam. So Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. So we talk about that, and then how to gain this pre-qualifications.
Mm.
So that talk covers this in detail, but Gita covers this. Gita, this is the whole theme of Gita, because the topic, the two goals or the two major topic covered by Gita, every chapter end when you chant, we tell, right? Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishado Yoga Prathamodhyayaha. This is how we end up, right? So in that Charama Shloka, closing remark of that chapter, Krishna always clearly talks about the two subject matter covered in the Gita. One is Brahma Vidya, meaning description or a clear understanding of the absolute reality, which is Brahman. And the second one is Yoga Shastra. It's a means to achieve that. So theory and a means to achieve that is clear.
Rajaji, I think, what would be very useful, maybe eventually, in multiple such talks, you could also give us snippets on like a daily routine
Yep.
that we could follow in order to get closer to
Absolutely.
the ultimate.
Absolutely, we can do that. And see, you don't need to spend hours. Just a 1 hour practice would be good enough. And just letting everybody know, this Sunday, Gina will start a meditation program. That is pretty much right now we wanted to do a kind of a relaxation meditation program, which is considering these COVID-19 situations. So that will start on this Sunday, but eventually means we can put together a small routine, like some physical yoga, pranayama, some meditation, some karma yoga. If you put all these things together, easily you could see the change. Means, as Gina said, right? We all, I know that from myself. Even see, the thing is, even your thinking becomes optimistic. So actually the neurology has proved that a pessimist is less immune. His immunity will be less. Can you believe it? There are proven theories which shows that the life of an optimist will be more. But some people, what happens? The first thought that comes to them is a very pessimistic thought. So you need to make sure that your thinking is positive. Positive means it is not the pep talk positive. Means I blindly say that I'm good, not like that. How do you make this positivity natural to you? Optimism natural to you. So we'll see this in later 13th chapter onwards, we are going to see this. But there are certain techniques, because this optimism, again, we always talk about these reading challenges or reading options. I strongly suggest each one of you to read a book called Learned Optimism. Learned Optimism. It is by Martin Seligman. It's such a fantastic book. Lot of techniques discussed here are given as practice in that book. Power of positivity, learned optimism, these things are extremely absolute must-have life skills for each one of us. And culturally, we are pessimist, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that.
How is that, Rajesh?
My question was also why do you think, Rajesh ji, like that?
No, I think, see, it's a fact. I'm not blaming anybody, but half of that would be a misinterpretation of the karma theory. When British came in, we just surrendered. We just accepted. We were happy with the clerical job given to us. We were never you have to aim big, you have to lead the world. That type of thinking, somehow it lost in between in our culture. I strongly believe that it is risk aversion, upbringing, right? You never try to, means you're overprotective of your kids. Even I myself has to be blamed for that. But this, we are, whenever a situation happens, we think about the worst possible scenario.
Also, I think I was listening to Vikranji the other day, and he just mentioned kind of the same thing, saying that Indians have a mentality of saying yes to everything. They just give
Yeah.
in. They are always a submissive kind. We never say no, and I cannot do this, or this is not something that we should be doing. We don't retort back, or even if you're right.
Yeah.
So that's the issue with everybody. I mean, most of the Indians, we also always have a yes, whether we can do it or not. Even if it's beyond your capability, you still have a tendency to say yes. That which is a very big issue even here in the U.S. Working under managers here. Indians have a tendency of saying yes and not achieving that thing at the right time. Project managers have a big issue with that because if you can't do it, just say no. Then we can work on some other options to see how it can be done. But just because you say yes, the dates are written in that fashion, and we don't achieve things on time, and then everybody gets to blame. So
Yeah.
it's a big thing with Indians. Yeah, it's he's very true.
No, I don't want to generalize it, but I was just saying an observed behavior, including myself. So,
Yeah, I think it's the fatalistic attitude.
yeah,
That,
fatalistic. That's what I was telling, like the misinterpretation of karma theory, and that's why I wanted to take 1 hour next Sunday and talk about this karma theory. So we need to unlearn and relearn the karma theory, because this karma theory caused a lot of problem for us. So karma theory is not fatalistic.
Because the other thing
Just
that
wanted to ask this.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, Rajeshji.
No, go
Just
ahead.
wanted to ask this fundamental question, right? Just because you're fatalistic
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily imply that you are pessimistic, right? You could be fatalistic, but still you could be very optimistic, believing that the best is written.
Of course, but the fatalist, the problem is you will undermine your self-effort, the value of your self.
Yeah.
A surrender to a fate. That's not what the scriptures talks. So your self-effort is extremely important.
Yeah.
So that's completely will be sab karma hai. Like even the word kismat, like that's a popular Hindi word used. I think it is means there is no Sanskrit root for that word. So I'm assuming that this came from Urdu.
You're right.
So whereas the word bhagya is different. Bhagya doesn't imply fate. It implies luck. But what is that luck? Those things we'll talk in our karma discussion. So have all your questions on karma consolidate. We will discuss that on Sunday.
What time is it?
Sunday 5 to 6, our Bhagavad Gita class. So a lot of people are asking, explain karma theory. So we are taking one supplementary lesson on karma theory, consolidating everything in karma into one lecture. Because 7 or 8 people were calling me and asking me question about karma, which is good.
So can fate mean karma?
What is it?
So can fate and karma means the same?
No,
Same,
no,
right?
no, 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 no.
No. Because I remember you telling me it's not the
It's
same.
totally different. That's what I'm going to explore. So what is fate? Fate, karma is not fatalistic. So I have to call out, there is an interesting talk in Mahabharata between Yudhishthira and Draupadi. So I will quote that. So I'll give the scriptural basis, what is karma, and what is the nature of karma, what is the science of karma, and how karma affects us, and how to overcome the effect of karma. Can karma be erased? Karmic impression can be erased. What do you mean by prayaschitta karma? And what are all the different types of karma? We are going to talk everything. Hopefully we can fit everything into an hour. But since a lot of people are asking these questions, it is important to get that clarity.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Bhuwanaji, if you can do the chanting. Sorry to take 15 minutes extra.
No,
It's really good. Actually, I'm glad that all these questions are coming.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.